All right. We are moving on. And we, if you are watching on YouTube, this is the what do you call these things? The program. The program. And on one side is Khabib, and on the other side is Conor McGregor. If you're listening on podcast, well, I'm holding up the program. What it does say on both sides is, the world is watching. Yeah, that was true. Yep. That was true. That was absolutely true. A couple million people bought it, and then bars and restaurants and their friends. They're for sure. And then Russia, it's free, and Europe, it's free, and Brazil, it's free.
Regular people were watching this.
Oh, okay. Everybody was watching this. A lot of things to talk about. I think the very first one we'll want to talk about is the fight itself. The second, and then some of the other things. I personally, there's always things outside of there. The matchups, the next matchup, what does it mean for the division? Those things I got bored of many years ago, and it doesn't mean, I'm certainly not judging you if that's your jam. And please don't think that I am. I'm not. I'm just looking for, new and interesting aspects, things that, the way it might force me to think and force me to look at difficult questions about myself or, challenge or growth, even culture and the world. So we'll want to talk about some of that. There's a lot of really wild things. To study anything deeply is to connect it to all things and all things to it. And that is, in the last couple of years of deep study, it's been one of the great gifts to me personally. And when I share it and talk about it and dig into it, there's a percentage of people who really find it enjoyable too. And if you're not one of those, then I'm sorry. But it's one thing that we definitely look at, maybe on this channel, somewhat unique to our perspective. But so the fight itself, let's start there. Going in, I didn't want to there was something frustrating for me about the obvious of it. And it was something frustrating for me that I couldn't find different layers to talk about it. And I felt that, and I found plateaus there in how to look at fights and martial arts and stuff. And those are good. Those are good things. We should all be so lucky to find frustrations in how we think and realize I can't do this. I'm weak here. Why can't I do this better? Or where else can we go? This can't be all there is. It's stressful, but it forces you to think of different ways. And one of the things I did was try to kind of examine the narrative. Not something I usually do, but I thought, well, it seems obvious, the conversations that are out there. So let's see what they are and why we're looking at them. And one of the biggest, McGregor on the feet will beat this guy up, and Khabib on the mat will maul him. And then a step further than that, people would be like, it's going to be cut and dried. I can't see this being a back and forth fight. And I remember thinking, and we talked about it a fair bit, but I disagreed pretty fully with that a few times. But then you think around a lot of different things. I saw Dan Hardy as a friend of mine, a good friend, and we did something together. If you go to tsn.ca/UFC, you'll see a 20, 30-minute chat Dan and I had. And we've done other work together, and we're going to do some other work in the future. We talked about a podcast. We got to spend a little time together chatting. I saw people coming down on Dan. See, you said Conor would smoke this guy. And I don't know why you would come down on Dan because he said that, but he also said to me, well, yesterday I thought this, but today I think this. Today I think, 55-45 because, I watched Conor do this and I started to imagine that. But now that I've looked at these aspects of Khabib, I'm feeling this way. And people pinpoint a moment in time and say, that's what you believe, Dan Hardy, or that's what you believe, Steve, my buddy, or that's what you believe, Mark Manoharan, or that's what you believe. People, we're all fucking fluid and plastic and ever changing. It's really funny
because analysts the most change their mind because they all their brain doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
So you'll always look at something and see something new and say, "Oh, of course, this is the new thing."
Which is why I talk to people not about. I wouldn't advise you guys, my friends, and I wouldn't advise other people who do jobs similar or somehow connected to what I do don't make picks because I don't want them to get in trouble on Twitter. They don't care and they shouldn't care. And in fact, most of them understand that it actually grows them a lot. And gets them, these days, controversy grows your ability to do your job. I say it because I don't want you to get trapped somewhere. And then, only see things that support your view. But so I'm sorry I get off topic, but these things mean a lot to me. They do. I think this conversation, and I know I have it over and over again, but I believe this can alter the way that we argue about politics or Donald Trump or Russia or, anything. This can change the way we see the world if we just stop choosing a side and shutting our brains out to everything. But anyways, those aspects brought me to starting to look at, well, why couldn't this be back and forth? Why couldn't they, and not only that, if you really believe that it's only this by ground and pound until it's over, or this by left hand until it's over, and trust me, that's part of my job. And I even did it with Kevin Lee. Part of my job is to have that conversation. But when we can sit and talk deeper than just part of the job, we can look at the truth. If this guy, and right now, podcast listeners, I'm holding up Khabib's face. If this guy thought, and all the expert people around him thought they were going to fight the other guy 6 or 9 months later, they wouldn't just go, well, we better get him down or we're fucking dead. Of course they wouldn't do that. They'll start working on the game. They'll start working on what matters. And the greats will break down the pieces of it. You don't have to become a better jiu-jitsu guy than a guy who's done 30 years of jiu-jitsu when you've done 7. You just have to find the bottlenecks of things that matter. You don't have to be a, quote, better boxer than Conor McGregor if you fight him. You just have to figure out how to do the thing. If you can land your overhand right, or if you can make him exhaust, like, you find answers. You find fucking answers. And if I'm holding up the other guy, Conor McGregor, if you're that guy and you're facing the best, somebody who's so dominant, beats everybody up on top, you change your approach. All of a sudden, you're pointed towards him. In round 1, you saw that. If you can take almost no damage by playing it differently than everyone else played it, that's a real thing. And of course, those things happened. Of course they did. And any smart fighter anywhere in the world, and most of them are smart, and every great coach has already been thinking like this, now suddenly realizes the answer isn't to out-wrestle the wrestler. The answer is to solve a key problem or two. The answer isn't to outstrike the striker. The answer is to solve a key problem or two. And it was something I intended to do going in. Mark Coleman versus Maurice Smith. And we talked about it. I intended to do it, but I've had issues with using UFC footage. They don't let anyone use it, although you'd be fucking surprised to hear that when you just open Instagram. There's thousands of them everywhere. I don't know if they're all getting shut down or not, but that's how they were handling it before. And if they're not all getting shut down, then I want to know that pretty soon, because then I'm going to start using the footage again. Like, you have to know where you're at. What's the policy? But I took that footage and I went into at New Era Combat Sports. It's in Canada, which is outside of Ottawa. I did a seminar with Crew Jeff, who's a fantastic martial artist and obsessed martial artist with finding different ways to grow. And he brought me and he said, hey, you want to do a breakdown seminar with my guys? And great martial artists, great line of thinking. I was honored, and even before I said it, he said, I know what you're thinking. You're not a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you're not a kickboxing world champion. I don't care. You have a perspective, and you have something that's of value, and I want you to share with my people. And I was thrilled. So we did a lot of looking at a lot of different things over that 2.5, 3-hour seminar, but among them we looked at Maurice Smith versus Mark Coleman. And Maurice Smith won that fight in 20 minutes. And about 16 minutes of it were on the ground. And he didn't out-wrestle the wrestler on the ground. He used framing techniques from Muay Thai while underneath a guy who was wrestling. He didn't out-wrestle the wrestler. He used things the wrestler didn't use. He beat the wrestler with Muay Thai off his back, inside fighting. And when I was showing it and I said, what is this? And there was a collar tie and a thing. And Crew Jeff goes, that's fucking Muay Thai. And it was. It was Muay Thai from the bottom. There's always ways. There's always ways. There's going to be more. Trust me, you're going to see more. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be very exciting. Taking different aspects, because what's a frame? I put this here and I use it's just a concept. It's a concept based on a strong body position and a correct concept from the right angle, well trained by me to do a certain thing. And my step after Jeff said, that's Muay Thai, was I agreed. And then later I said, no, it isn't, because there's no such thing as Muay Thai. To which, when I say that, most people are like, now you're crazy. But there's no such thing as these things. They're just concepts. Because by this point, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which once didn't exist, like when did somebody call it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? It was taking... In judo, there are grappling techniques that were used for this purpose. They were kind of forgotten or rarely used as the sport progressed a particular way until this powerful, smart family and key people put them back in. And because they were from Brazil, they called it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that ain't that long ago. And before that, it didn't exist. Only it did, because it's just concepts. It's just fighting concepts. And that is all Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor did with their coaches, who will not, no matter when, especially when there's a winner and a loser, but even outside of that, will not get the credit that they deserved. We're talking about how great Khabib's grappling was, and yes, he landed a big right hand and didn't get hurt by Conor, but we're not going to credit Javier Mendez as much as we should. And when Conor didn't get beat up in round one, by using smart positional approach and not doing the things that got you beat up, because it wasn't just getting out wrestled when Khabib beat guys up, he had smart, dominant positions that he had trained a lifetime and reactions. And you got to stay away from those. You can't. What do you do if he gets you in the wrist ride? You take a shit beating. That's what you do. What's the answer? Don't let him get your wrist. How do we do that? Don't get on all fours. Don't get on all fours. Don't go to 4 points to get away. How do we do that? Well, it'd be good if we didn't get taken down, but if we don't, we better turn back into him, because if we give him our back, that guy's going to murder us. Pretty good job. They did a pretty good job in round one. And then we credit Khabib. Round two. Credit Khabib. And here's probably where my favorite credit to Khabib goes from that fight. That I'm sure there's lots of people smarter than I, and I'm sure some of these mentioned it. But this is key. People talked about how, well, Conor did well in round one, and he did very well. And that's good. Again, it's not you crediting the enemy. It's give the enemy their due so that you can show your ability. If Khabib just beat the crap out of this guy for 7 minutes, it would not be as fulfilling a fight. It would not say as much about the greatness of Khabib Nurmagomedov. He did pretty well in round one. And then people, when we look at it, well, one of the aspects, we'll zero in on only one, and that is, well, Khabib breaks you down and he makes you tired and then you're in trouble. That is true. But as important or more important is he also learns in the moments. He learns in those positions. So Khabib is attacking me. And Khabib had me in a single leg in Calgary, and gentle, nice, smiling. He was very cool. And I was fucking terrified. Not just because he was Khabib. It's just you can feel like and he was messing around. He let me get the hook back in and kind of like defend, and then kind of went to a double and I gently put my hands across his face because I didn't want him to hurt me. But I could feel like the reality of what it was, and he wasn't literally playing with his kid, making sure he didn't hurt the fucking analyst from Canada because he'd get in probably some trouble. Although they'd probably sweep that under the rug and just say I fell, piece me off with a few dollars, and the UFC would be like, look, Robin, here. Like, he didn't really hurt. He didn't mean to, you know that. Not saying that's ever happened, because if it did, I certainly don't know about it. And I'm being somewhat joking. But anyways, I could feel how fucking real all that shit was. So let's just imagine for a moment that I actually had, and Conor is just an extension of just any other person because he's just a person. Khabib has a single, and I loop in for a whizzer, and then I put my hand on the inside, and I take my shin, and I put it across his shin. This is step one. And then I either push down on the head or pull up on the head, or I break the grip with my leg or my hand, or whatever my answer is. And then the audience, will be like, holy shit, Robin defended. That means he's going to piece Khabib up. which, trust me again, that would never happen. I couldn't defend shit against Khabib. So please don't take that out of context. And if somebody does, fucking call them on it if they don't add this part, because it's real. And people do shit like that all the time. Not to me, because I'm small potatoes, but to big potatoes, they do. So somehow I defend it. People are like, holy fuck, Conor defended a takedown. If I worked on that one way to defend Khabib's takedown, you know what he's going to do next time? Make me defend that way and then do the next reaction to that. Or the next one. He's got 30 or 80 or 12 A and B. He's got 37. He's got 50 different ways from me doing the right thing. The right thing is take the arm, whizzer it inside, shin across, push out on the head or pull or lift, and that's it. That's the right thing. I went to wrestling class in 2008 when I first started fighting, and they taught me to do that. And now I know. Therefore, I can stop Daniel Cormier. No, because there's layer on layer on layer on layer. Each position is just a position. Whatever position we're in is just a position. And once we get to one that is correct for me and I know the A, B, and C of what to do from there, they know fucking Greek, Spanish, Chinese, and all these other languages that I don't understand. So when Conor prepared himself to have an answer for Khabib in round one, he did it. And it worked, and he deserves a little bit of credit. That's real. That was incredibly well prepared. He was also calm. Excellent. But now Khabib just speaks a different language in round two. Okay. And Khabib's not going to, they might eat a little bit, certainly one day, give each other credit. But Khabib, to his friends with no cameras around, will be like, actually, I was surprised. You know, he had some answers there for me in round one. He moved the head back to the inside. He put the butterfly hooks in. He stayed calm. I was impressed. So what'd you do? I just fucking went one of my other 37 routes until I found where he was weak. That's it. That's all it is. You know, you cannot prepare to defend the best Brian T. City. Okay, we haven't seen him doing triangles for the last while, but it's because he's got other things as well. But if you find yourself close to a triangle for Brian T. City, you'll get triangled because he has, each reaction offers him something else. And that's Khabib in round two. Notice eventually he's standing over him, and he didn't do as much damage as he would have liked, but he realized, standing over him, he's going to work his feet on my hips. He's going to look for a moment where he can set up a De La Riva type submission, 1 foot behind the knee, 1 foot in the hip, the other hand on the ground. Imagine you have a foot here, and you have your hand holding this, and you have a foot pulling here. This pulls, this pushes, and this pulls, and you go down. That's what he's looking for. And Khabib's like, fuck, I'm better at not getting swept in that way than he is at sweeping in that way. Also, this just hit me. That's a variation, a setup that Conor kind of worked against Diaz, which when you think about it, credit Khabib and his people, because they were like, okay, actually, that's pretty fucking impressive to be able to sweep Nate Diaz there. Yes, Nate wasn't expecting it. I will be expecting it. I saw him do it before. I know that's one of his spots. Okay, great. So now, offer it to him. He's looking for it. Meantime, I punch him a bunch of times. Okay, round two's done now. And now I'm up 2 rounds. Did anyone give him a 10-8 round?
Yeah, I think he got a 10-8 round.
Yeah, I think he got a 10-8 round. Maybe deserved, although when another guy jumps up and smiles and he's not bleeding. But that's not really, it's supposed to be about, I did a shitload to you and you did nothing to me, and that's real. So I could have given him a 10-8 round personally, and I'm pretty unbiased. Although it's hard to do. I mean, we're all humans. Humans are biased. Don't judge people for being biased. We're all biased. What we're looking for is people to be as little bias as possible. But zero bias, maybe there's someone stoic enough out there, maybe, but not many. Not even 1 in 100. Certainly not. But yeah, so now we're up. And then now into round 3, what else did we benefit? We're Khabib. We've heard him. Fuck, I don't care how he looks. We've heard him.
Did the overhand right land in the third round?
Round two. Yeah, that helped too. That certainly.
Because Conor came back, but Conor won the third round. But many say,
While we're giving credit, Conor won the third round. Now, That could have been strategic or could have not been strategic. So round 2, Khabib lands the overhand right. Does that make Khabib a better striker than Conor McGregor? Sure, if you're an idiot arguing with somebody on Twitter. But in reality, all you're doing is showing the weakness of these comparisons. You're illustrating the weakness of these comparisons. Who's a better striker, this guy or this guy? Well, this guy dropped him with one punch, therefore him. Come on, let's not be ridiculous. What we're proving is that those comparisons are weak, and that if we really, truly care enough to go beyond these areas, we must give ourselves the challenge of not using these flawed comparisons. Very hard to do. Ask somebody to talk about fighting and say, don't use the word striker versus grappler, ground and pound, power. It's very fucking difficult to do, but it can be done. As soon as you give yourself like, hey, wait a second, I'm going to try to avoid flawed things. And when I say them, I'll be like, oh, shit, I did it.
If you just use the process of deduction, we'll come to a conclusion.
Yeah. So anyways, the only reason I mention that is because I'm hoping over time that we can find our way through these plateaus that we've been stuck at for a little while. But yeah, Khabib drops him, beats him up. That single right hand that dropped him in addition to the beating, yeah, right. I would have given, if I was judging not for the point of view of talking about it on television after or just freaking out because I'm having so much fun, I was strictly assigned the job of scoring. I think I might have given that a 10-8 as well. But then Conor comes back and wins round 3. Keeps it on the feet for a great deal of it. Moves his feet. Lands some punches. Khabib lands some too. And then this is the one where people zero in and say, oh, did Conor look like himself? He wasn't, he was flat-footed out there. He wasn't playing with the range. It's all these things. It's like, I can agree with you, but not if you are making that point to somehow say, use this as an excuse for the loss. All of that happened because of what Khabib did to him. All of that happened, not just damage or fatigue, not just strikes to the head and the body and fatigue to the muscles and the body tissues because of being underneath and fighting to work so hard with a guy on top of you, but also pressure. There was something somewhere I saw, it might have been Ariel, it was a clip of Conor talking, and he talked about how he credited Khabib that he had underestimated him, and that's not an insult ever, by the way. Underestimating somebody is saying, I treated them with respect, which not the things he said he didn't, but with the approach. Nobody ever approaches a fight trying to not do well. You approach it trying to do well, and to do that, you got to look and go, he's good here, this is real, or you're fucked. So, and I know they're team to a degree, and I know that's what they did. And then what you say is, we went in and said, these are real things to deal with, and it turned out he was even better than we thought. So it's a weird type of compliment within the truth. But then he also said Khabib was on autopilot, and I don't remember if he said panicked or thinking too much or both. I can't remember exactly. But Khabib was on autopilot is really important because Khabib wasn't out there thinking. And other than Nate Diaz, everybody else was out there thinking. Everybody. They're thinking, what do I do? What's he saying? Why did he say that? Ask Mendez, he's like, wow, yeah, give it to him. And like, man, he was talking. Or Poirier, it's like, yeah, I guess he got into my head. Or Aldo hasn't talked about it a great deal, and I don't blame him. Aldo, Mark and I were talking about, that's probably the fight we'd like to see the most, because Aldo now would be entirely different. Oh, yeah. Still, there are advantages in different ways and stuff, and Conor's still larger at whatever weight they're at, but that's the fight. Aldo's, the specialness of Jose Aldo, some people forgot, and it's real. But everybody else, Conor broke their autopilot. Autopilot's important. That's flow. We're out there flowing. We spent our lifetime doing this. I know what I want. You start to do it. You're not thinking. You're not thinking, oh my God, I better get a takedown or else this guy's going to punch me. You're punching, you're moving, you're grabbing. It's not there. You're flowing. It's flow. It's a state. It's a physiological brain state. And Khabib was in it. And when Conor cannot put you in it, not take you out of it, so far it's taken him out of it.
And what's even more impressive was even leading up to the fight, in the most recent interviews leading up to it, Khabib was saying how, Conor is in my head. He's got me riled up. I'm angry. And even with all that, he still maintained that tunnel vision task at hand.
But it's better to admit it than deny it.
Yeah.
Because if you admit it, You plan for it. You prepare for it. You know it's real. Eddie denied it, and it pains me because then it's not overly critical. We're just looking at moments. Eddie's going to still have his best moments ahead of him, and he's got many brilliant ones. But he tried to deny that Conor could do that, and that's not the right answer. He'll never do it again.
What did he say? Didn't he
Santa
say
Claus isn't real. Santa's not real.
The boogeyman doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's like it's not a real thing. Oh, it is a real thing. You have to be ready that it's a real thing. And Khabib was ready that it was a real thing. And actually, I said when Conor can't get you out of it, it gets him out of it. But that's not true. Those first couple rounds of Nate Diaz won, Conor looked actually fucking amazing. In both Nate Diaz fights. But in Nate Diaz won, Conor was fucking in flow state, and Nate still beat him. But in this one, he was not. But that isn't an excuse, and nobody better look at it that way. It's a credit to Khabib Nurmagomedov. He was better. And something we always try to talk about and isn't always easy to illustrate, but this fight it is. It really doesn't fucking matter that your punch shot off Jose, or that you took Michael Johnson's shot, or that once you get the wrist ride, nobody else can do anything, or you wrestled fucking bears, or you fought 10 rounds again. None of that fucking matters. What matters is on this night, who is the better man in this moment? I've referenced Chael if you're listening or watching the whole length podcast instead of just chunks today. Something that we talked about with Chael, back in Portland. It only matters now, and that's not an excuse. It should never be an excuse. You signed a contract that at 9 p.m., probably closer to 10 p.m. on, what was the date of that fight? October 8th?
I think so. Yeah,
let's say it was October 8th. Apologies if it was the 7th or the 9th. At 9:55 p.m. between these moments, you will be ready to go in that cage and fight. And if you are not, and you lose, and you make an excuse of any kind, that's all bullshit. And if you're the fan of one side and you make any excuse of any kind, you're bullshitting. They don't matter. You signed a thing. You made a choice. You were doing it. All that mattered. Oh, you might do better in the future. If it was done again and you didn't have diarrhea, or you didn't injure your foot in the back, or this didn't happen, well, great. Go earn your right to do it again, and let's see in those moments that you sign. All of these excuses are 100% irrelevant. Especially, did his gas tank look on? He made him. You made you.
That was by design, because Luke Thomas pointed something out that was really interesting. He said when Conor gets gassed, his drop off is so severe and so noticeable compared to, say, Frankie Edgar. When Frank gets gassed, it looks like he's 25% slower. Yeah. When Conor gets gassed, it's like he's 50% slower.
Yeah, but that is psychological.
Psychological.
It is 100. That is, I can say 100% psychological. It is your interpretation of how scary it is to fatigue.
And Khabib brought that on to
yes,
him.
Yes, he did. And he deserves that. Yeah. But if you are not in shape, if I was in better shape, then I would have won. Fuck you. You know why you weren't in better shape? Because you didn't work hard enough. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're in better shape because you took it on short notice? You took it on short notice. All of it is your fault. Yeah. All of it. And if you follow us, we're always looking for something. What do we learn out of this that's useful in our life? It's all your fucking fault. It's all your fault. One of the things that comes up in conversation, if I'm going to use a personal story, people are like, hey, why aren't you working at the UFC? I'm not exactly sure, but it is 100% my fault. Whatever it is. Whatever I did or didn't do is shit I did or didn't do. Who the fuck? How do you blame? Oh, man, see... And again, to be a fan of you get the choice of doing what you want to do. You don't have to listen to me or anybody else's perspective. I'm only passing on what I believe would be the most beneficial if we choose to go down that road. But Conor looked out of shape. Well, then fuck him. And he would say that. He'd be like, fuck me, this is my fault. I believe. I've seen it in the past, he has. Or, who was that guy Khabib fought on short notice?
Was it Daniel Horcher?
Yeah, Daniel Horcher. Well, Daniel Horcher or Chad Mendes. That's because Horcher's choice to take that can be motivated by many things, including my chances of winning are very low. However, if I do what I've got to do here, this will give me more chances in the future. And that is a choice made intentionally by a person with all the information. So we can't judge him for that. And I certainly didn't hear him ever making any excuses. When Ferguson, who of course had a brilliant night, fought
Lando Venata.
Jesus. Venata didn't say, well, if I had 6 weeks, I'd have been. You took it. You took it. Somebody didn't make you take it. It's not like, well, you thought there would be more weeks, but this was offered. You took it. There's no fucking excuse. Mm-hmm. There's never an excuse. Never. There's explanations of some type, but yet it's on you. If you did have diarrhea and you couldn't fight, well, you fucking chose what to eat. Or if it was your dietitian, you hired him. Like all of it has to be on you, because the benefit of that is if it is, you can improve it.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
Chad Mendes on short notice. You know, Chad took it. You don't then say, well, if I had longer notice. You didn't. You took it. You lost.
There was some fighter, I can't remember the name, but it was a big fight. Oh, Diego Sanchez, the night before, he ate steak tartare, which is raw steak with egg. You don't eat that before a fight.
Yeah. Diego's different. Did he win or lose?
I think he lost.
Yeah.
I think he blamed on the horse.
And he may have used that explanation or used it as an excuse, and that would be wrong of him. And if we looked at this conversation deeply enough, knowing what I know, and I've spent time with Diego, I really like him. I think he'd probably agree. But yeah, in this case, like, please do not go and hey, do what you want. But I think we'd get a lot more benefit out of going in if Conor looked flat in round 3, instead of going, he looked flat, see, he wasn't himself, right? If he was himself, maybe it'd be. None of that makes any sense. If you thought he didn't look flat, hey, why didn't Conor, or why he did look flat? Why did Conor look flat in round 3? If you look at educated explanations, or you don't have the education to do it, go to somebody who does. Could have been the beating Khabib laid on him, affected him physically. Could have been the beating that Khabib laid on him in the second round, affected him psychologically. Could have been his own preparation, which is his own goddamn fault. Any of these things is either a credit to the guy or failure on your part. All of it. All of it. Always. And even if there's some weird occasion that it's not, and of course disasters happen to people, it's still better to look for your fault in it. And if you do, you can actually come back and win next time. It's possible. It is possible. So anyways, round 3 does pretty well, wins the round, but by round 4, Khabib now strong, smart, fearless, because he took the guy's best that he had after the beating he gave him in round 3. Then he came out and started controlling and doing his thing. And if you did watch the long form of the podcast, there's people talk about surrender. Now, a lot of us, all of us, have not done what these men have done. So when we criticize somebody who rose to the prime minister of something or the boss of something, we don't have their experience. We haven't done any of the things they did. We quit along the way. Somebody said, hey, do you want to run for office? We're like, no, I quit. You quit before it even started. If somebody said when you were 10, hey, do you want to play hockey? And you were like, no, well, you quit. Doesn't mean you wanted to. And sometimes it'd be like, yeah, but, I don't have any money. Well, neither did that kid, but somehow he did it. Like, you quit. We quit. Our road to the UFC champion, all of us, our road to being UFC champion, we all quit. Every single one of us. Every one of us. Some of us quit on the first question. Hey, do you want to train martial arts? No, that's not my thing. Okay, you quit. It's okay. We're all quitters. Everybody's a quitter. Everyone's a quitter at everything. We quit all the time. We quit on our fucking diet, and every day we quit a lot. All of us. Now, we can learn from it. It can be of value to us. But when you give up, and we quitters, all of us, every one of us, every day, we judge people who have said, I won't quit. 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 Thousands and millions of times up to the NFL game, and then they just can't do it. Or up to the UFC title and can't do it. Up to facing it, accepting it, walking into the cage, fighting the first 30 minutes. We judge those fucking people. How dare we? How dare we?
Some people will win the belt, and at that point, I can't do this anymore.
I can't do this. We judged George St. Pierre after that fucking fight. We judged him. Oh. We shouldn't do that. We can if you want. Do what you like. But if you think about it, it's insane. And when you surrender, you can surrender because when you surrender, you believe this fight, battle, diet, relationship, political thing, whatever you do, whatever it is, you believe it's now unwinnable. Once you believe that, it is unwinnable. And none of us. So I was in a fight and I couldn't see, and at all. I couldn't see at all in those moments. And I remember crying after. I was not able to see, and I hid my face, and I remember telling myself, or actually before even, because there was a doctor there, and I can't see. And I'm thinking to myself, well, other guys have fought with 2 broken hands. Like, that actually went through my head. It's like, well, I can't do this. And I was really, really down and sad, and it still makes me sad to think about it. But I just couldn't. Would have loved to, wanted to, thought about it, considered it, thought, well, other people have done it. And just, you can't. To quit is not like you've now just, I'm sitting around and Mark, when you worked in the bank, Mark worked in a bank, and he fucking hated it. It was making him insane. You thought about it for days and weeks leading up to it. Like, you hated it, you weren't sure about it, you thought you might quit.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, in the moments of a fight, you don't have any of that. Your brain is telling you, stop getting me smashed in the head. Stop, protect me. I am you. I'm a big part of you. The brain inside, it's demanding it. You can't, and you, all of us, every one of us, fucking put out our favorite chocolate or chip and say, don't eat it. Our brain eventually demands us to eat it. We're not weak. We are what we are. Somebody else would judge us as weak, but then somebody else will eat 75 bags of it. And then somebody else might not eat it for an hour. We're all just fucking, we have what we have. We have what we have there, We can train it and we can improve it. And when you identify it and admit it, you improve it. And I'm much more mentally strong than I was 6 months ago, and much more mentally strong than before that. And some of that is these failures. But to surrender is when you believe you cannot win. And we do that every day, every single one of us. And then we judge these people at the highest level who don't surrender for months and years of their life and then finally do under the most adverse conditions.
And especially when fighting is like, you say in the one-man show, it's everything your body and nature is taught you not to do.
Yeah, it's like if I punch you in the face right now, unless you've trained or been in a lot of physical conflicts or played a sport that takes head trauma, you will cover your face and turn your back. That's what our genes do. We do that.
We were born that way.
Yeah, we were born that way. We do that because once upon a time, if our ancestors got a couple of teeth knocked out, they'd get an infection and they'd die. If they got their fucking nose smashed and they couldn't breathe properly, they'd die. If damage was done to their eye and they couldn't see, they would die. They were wandering the fucking Serengeti or whatever area of the world it was at the time, trying to survive. This was the right thing to do. You train that out for decades of your life, and then that happens, and then Anthony Pettis wants to, his coach says, don't fight with a broken hand. I don't want you to have an injury that lasts a lifetime, and we judge them. We can't do that. Sorry, we can do that. But if you give it a lot of thought, maybe you won't, and if maybe you don't, it'll make you think about yourself, and maybe if you think about yourself, you'll gain some kind of valuable thing that'll help you grow.